Burning Bridges, an Aliens Fanfiction, written by Kruger, also known as Admiral Katz on fanfiction.net, at Sailing Bunny on Twitter, and the Sailing Rabbit on AVP Galaxy. Read by Kruger and edited by Denal Douglas. This story follows a different timeline to the current Alien universe. Some characters have been changed to reflect this timeline. Chapter 4 2175 Gorman's nightmare had only just begun. He quickly found out that his order of no more pranks was smashed to bits. During lunch, one of the juice dispensers wasn't working. Gorman opened up the back to see what was wrong, and after moving the obstruction, he was promptly sprayed with cranberry juice. That was a coincidence. It was just a fucking coincidence! Gorman angrily took a paper towel from Maxie, wiping the juice from his face. Among the worst that happened was that night, when Gorman quickly realized his toothpaste had been replaced with mayonnaise. Infuriated, he made sure every door in his quarters was locked before going to sleep. The locks didn't stop the prankster. Gorman awoke the next morning to find a beeping alarm clock taped to the ceiling, a wind-up mouse running around a drawer that used to contain his undershirts, which had been dumped on the floor, and Sergeant Hardass written in lipstick on his bathroom mirror. He was speechless. A part of him wanted to have Towers transferred, but who knows what type of squad commander she would go to. She could very well get thrown out of the Marines, though a part of Gorman wondered if that was the best choice. She's only been here 2 days. As long as no one's getting hurt, she'll stay. He put his uniform on and folded his shirts to put them back in the drawer. He definitely wasn't giving that wind-up mouse back to Towers. The cats would really like it, that's for sure. On his way to the mess hall, he paused in his office to grab his coffee and kept a close eye on it while getting his breakfast. The coffee hadn't been touched, but something else sure had. "How's everyone doing this?" Gorman was interrupted as he sat down on something that made a particular loud and vulgar sound. His face flushed red when every Marine at the table turned to look at him, and he stood up to reveal the pink whoopee cushion on his seat. "Oh, for the love of—" He held up the cushion and looked at Towers. "Really?" She shrugged. Gorman sighed. "I think I need a new approach with her." "Towers, I want to see you in my office after breakfast. We're going to have a little talk." "2135 A little girl with pigtails was running and screaming as she tore down the hallway from Sevastopol's daycare. She was a fast little snot, especially when she realized Waits was trying to catch her. A pair of engineers peered out from a maintenance room when they heard the commotion. First, the little girl ran by, screeching. Then Waits barreled past. The girl rounded a corner to a main hallway leading to the spaceflight terminals. She stopped once to see if Waits was still chasing her, and immediately turned tail to keep running when he skidded around the corner. "Get back here, you little brat!" Waits snarled. He yanked his radio from his belt. "Ricardo, I need assistance at the habitation towers, heading toward the spaceflight terminal. Got an escapee from the fucking daycare." "Are you chasing them?" Ricardo asked. "Yes! Hurry up before she gets to the terminals!" "Waits, you can't chase them, then they just keep running." "I'm in no mood to play peekaboo!" The hall had opened to a much larger space, active with people. Some paused to stare at the screaming girl running through. Then Waits noticed someone reaching to grab the girl. He could see the blood draining from the man's face right before colliding into him and tackling him to the ground. Waits raised his baton and lowered it when he realized the man was too stunned to move. "Nice try," Waits hissed, hoisting his suspect up and holding his hands behind his back. "Change of plans, Ricardo," he said into the radio. "Some piece of shit tried grabbing the brat. I've got him. You take him back to the cells. I'll take care of the brat." "On my way, Waits," Ricardo replied. The little girl had watched the whole show, and didn't move when Waits approached her. "Have we learned our lesson on why we don't run from the daycare screaming like a little fucking banshee?" Waits crouched in front of her, giving her a dirty look. Much to his surprise, she nodded, her lower lip quivering. "That could have ended badly if I wasn't right there. You might have never seen your mommy and daddy again." She nodded again. "So, lesson learned. Come here, I'll take you back." Waits stood up expecting the little girl to just follow him. She kept trying to take his hand, and she gave him a sad look every time he pulled it away. Eventually, he sighed. "All right, you want to ride?" Another nod. "Fine." Waits picked her up, letting her wrap her arms around his neck. "Don't even think about wiping your nose on my coat. That's all I ask of you." He walked all the way back down to the daycare and shifted the little girl into his arms to hand her off to the woman in charge of the facility. "Here's your brat back. Listen, you need to start padlocking this door. I'm not dealing with escapees every single day. I really don't give a crap why they're escaping, just keep them from getting out. There's more important shit for me to be dealing with." Waits gestured to the girl. "She was almost kidnapped by somebody. If that's not a reason for you to better secure this place, I don't know what is. Get to it, and that's an order." He turned to leave, but then felt someone tugging his pants. Looking down, he saw the little girl. "What do you want?" "Thank you, mister," she said. "You have lollipops?" "No, I don't have lollipops. Do I look like a candy machine to you? Go play with the other kids." The little girl waved to him as he left. Waits sighed, noticing her from the corner of his eye as he walked away. He headed back to the Marshal Bureau to begin the paperwork detailing this little incident. As soon as he entered the bureau, one of the other marshals started laughing. "Any particular reason for swearing around the little ones, Waits? You know you can get in trouble for that." "Oh, boo-hoo, I dropped an F-bomb in front of a 5-year-old. My father cussed in front of me all the time when I was a kid." Waits rolled his eyes. "You mean you weren't demon spawn like some of the guys on LV-510 say you are?" Waits glared at his companion, biting back a retort that would have consisted of much fouler language than he had used in front of the little girl. Picking up a folder, Hazelton left his desk and thrust the folder into Waits' hands. "Complete your report before 6 tonight if you don't want to be written up for swearing in front of a child. I really don't want to be wasting my time with petty garbage like that. But if you do it again, you're getting fined. Got it?" "Yes, sir." Waits dropped the folder on his desk before heading to the coffee maker. In the 2 weeks that had passed since getting his physical papers finally completed, Waits had been given many of the more menial tasks around the station. Patrolling, checking out suspected individuals, chasing down thieves, and escaped children. Nothing new in Waits' book. Off duty, Waits kept to himself. It wasn't hard to see he didn't make friends easily, but it was oftentimes difficult to tell if he liked it that way, or was really lonely deep inside. At least, it was difficult for everyone else. Waits knew he was lonely, and had been for years. He expressed it a few times to his sister, but as time went on, he found it harder and harder to express. Because at my age, I should have friends already, right? Some could say he brought this life on himself, but Waits wasn't sure. He knew he could be difficult to deal with, but he also knew that some people just wouldn't give him any chances, which, in turn, had made him a bit more difficult. It was a constant and vicious cycle, and at that point, he didn't care what had caused it, whether it was him or those around him. It was there, and always would be until someone came along to break it. He stayed behind to finish his report while the others took their lunch breaks. Having filled out hundreds of these reports before, it was a smooth and almost automatic process. In the past, he had a lot of respect for his superiors. Hazelton was different. How desperate was Sevastopol if they were willing to hire someone who looked like he had only graduated basic 5 years ago to be in charge of the entire Marshal Bureau? Now that he thought about it, probably not desperate at all. It was possible the station would close within the next 5 years, possibly less. Waits imagined he would have to be there for that. Assignment lengths varied, depending on a slew of factors: seniority, condition of the colony, condition of the colony's marshal staff, war, anything, really. And he had seen it all. Waits left the bureau after placing the report on Hazelton's desk. The others were probably on their way back up, and he left a message saying he was taking his own lunch break so Hazelton didn't harass him on where he was for the next hour or so. He hadn't seen Lingard in a while, not since his physical was completed 2 weeks ago. Her quickly leaving the room after he made a simple offer of coffee was still in the back of his mind. Her mannerisms as a whole were still in the back of his mind. It just seemed like she was trying to hide something from him, but what? More importantly, why? It made no sense to him. Waits saw her at a distance when he approached the food court. The noon rush had ended. He didn't have to wait long to get something to eat, and go over to Lingard to ask if he could join her. "I'm not staying long," she replied. "Doesn't really answer my question," Waits said. She sighed. You can sit, but don't expect any lengthy conversation. Actually, I kinda wanted to ask about that. You know, maybe, maybe we can set aside some time to have a lengthy conversation? Lingard didn't respond right away. Gently, Waits touched her arm. Can I at least ask you to not run away again? I don't know what I said to upset you, or however I fucked up, I'm so sorry. Just tell me what you want, Waits. Drugs, money, information on people, whatever you want. I don't want any of that. Honestly, Doc, what's going on? How do I know I can trust you? A little confused, Waits shrugged. All I wanted to do was go for coffee and talk, not solicit you for stuff. Again, how do I don't know what you want me to say. If you don't trust me for whatever reason, fine. I'll stop talking to you unless I need a puke bag or someone's got my baton shoved up their ass. Waits stood up, and people wonder why I don't bother socializing. Lingard watched Waits dump his tray before leaving the food court. He didn't see her open her mouth to say something before hesitating and stopping herself. Waits was undoubtedly frustrated, but he couldn't show it, not to anyone. He kept his head down while heading back to the Marshal Bureau, struggling to control his expression. Looking at himself in the glass covering a Seegson poster in the elevator, he swallowed hard, and he let his face relax in a neutral expression. The others were on duty, probably patrolling assignments. Even Hazelton was out doing something. Out of boredom, Waits dug up the passcode for the armory. He figured cleaning and checking his revolver would be enough to pass the time. Upon opening the armory, he was appalled. This is it. There were a few shotguns racked. Next to them were more revolvers like his. That was indeed it. Giving a heavy sigh, Waits rubbed his face. Who in God's name said this was okay? He muttered. No bureau he had ever been stationed at was this weakly armed. Even smaller colonies had at least a few AUGs, pulse rifles, and P90s on hand. Sevastopol didn't even have semi-auto rifles or handguns. A single squad of Marines had better firepower than Sevastopol. A pair of dropship pilots had better firepower than Sevastopol. If things ever go to shit, I'll have to improvise. Waits sat on a bench, taking his revolver from his belt. No matter how much he didn't like Hazelton, he was going to bring this up when he next saw him. No one had returned to the bureau when Waits emerged from the armory. He sat back at his desk and frowned upon seeing he had a new message marked personal on his computer. Waits, come meet me by the door of the maintenance tunnel at the transit stop near the hospital. Tonight. Don't tell anyone. $21.75. Alright, if you touch anything on my desk, I will call the MPs to handcuff you, Gorman said, sitting across from Towers. She had been playing with some of the trinkets on his desk, and then set them all down in places they weren't before. Gorman resisted the urge to sigh as he set his things up back where he had them. Let's talk about the last 2 days. But first, I'm going to lay down some rules. Don't roll your eyes at me. Now, I'm not going to be a hard ass, and you are not going to be a pain in the ass. Agreed? Towers shrugged. Gorman sighed. All I want to do is ask why you're doing this. Why are you giving me back talk and tormenting me with all these pranks? Well, for one thing, it's fun. Second, Wade was crying after you yelled at her in the gym for just using the restroom. After comforting her, I decided to get some revenge for her, because you really went overboard with that. When we're done, I will apologize to her. Now, can you stop with the pranks? This is a military base, not a high school. I promise I won't do anything that could get me arrested. Much of what you've already done could get you arrested. You're lucky I'm willing to give you a second chance. Okay. Are you going to keep this up? I can't tell you. You will stop with the pranks, and I know, Gunny, that's an order. Gorman bit his lip. He sighed. Please, don't interrupt me when I'm talking to you. Something about that struck a nerve with Towers. She gave Gorman a dirty look. You're not my father. And I never said I was. Stop with the pranks. Stop giving me attitude. That's an order. I'm not going to repeat myself with this, or else I'm shipping you to another unit where their sergeant will be as kind as I'm being right now. Jesus, you sound exactly like my father. I'm beyond giving a shit right now. I will drag you down to the brig myself if you don't shape up. You will be confined to quarters for the rest of the day, unless I call you somewhere. There is absolutely no place for this level of disobedience and disrespect in my unit. Get up, stop touching my desk ornaments, go on down to your quarters. Gorman didn't bother apologizing to Wade afterward. She and Towers both did something potentially dangerous in the gym. I really shouldn't have to apologize for disciplining them. He let Towers free just before dinner, and he was a little surprised with her silence. Maybe he had finally gotten through to her. Perhaps what you need to do is not give her the reaction she wants, Valen suggested that evening. I feel like she'll just keep doing it until she does get that reaction. She strikes me as extremely determined, Gorman replied. She'd give up eventually once she sees you're not reacting the way she wants. Or at least thinks you will. I've had to do that with my daughter. Gorman was quiet for a moment, looking over the trinkets on his desk. She told me I sounded like her father. I noticed that made her upset. Open her folder. Who does she have as her next of kin? An aunt? A sad look came over Valen's face. Probably doesn't have the greatest relationship with her parents, I think. I wouldn't assume anything, but this might be something you should talk about with her. I've known many Marines who enlisted to get away from home. Sometimes we're the closest thing they have to family, and we want to make them feel like they belong somewhere. I feel like I've already damaged any relationship I could have had with her, if this is the case. I think you can salvage it. Like I said, try not to react to what she does, and try to talk to her, not as her superior, but as a friend, a fellow Marine. Not right away, though. Leave her alone for a few days. Gorman nodded. Do you think I've been hard on her? On Towers? Not necessarily. You were a private once. You can remember being disciplined for stupid things, right? Never on the level of stupid she's doing. Well, Gorman paused. I did once crawl in the vent above Sergeant Clark's office with a tape recorder full of classic Irish insults. He nearly tore apart the office looking for that thing. I really deserved running around the base track until I puked for that. He grinned a little. Stupid PFC days. So, you do have an idea of where Towers is coming from? A little, but that was the only real prank I ever pulled, and I learned my lesson after vomiting in the grass. Never did anything like that again. I think, when you get the chance, you should tell Towers that story. It might earn her respect for you. Another nod. Honestly, that's a good idea. Thanks. Valen glanced at a clock. I'm off to shower and make sure everyone's behaving themselves in the lounge. Have a good night, Gorman. You too. Gorman figured he would do the same, but, out of fear, he had to thoroughly inspect his quarters for any pranks or traps. Afterward, he locked the door, not wanting anyone to get in while he was showering. He was grateful no one sabotaged anything when he stepped out of the bathroom, and breathed a sigh of relief as he tied the waistband of his bathrobe. Without a second thought, he left the bedroom and headed down to the communication room. Keying in the code to contact Lydia, he sat in front of a screen, heart pounding. He was excited to talk to her, see her, even though they were hundreds of miles apart. He rested his head on his arms as he waited for the signals to connect. When he got the confirmation on screen, Gorman lifted his head, smiling when he saw his wife's face. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Scott, Lydia replied. 1 second. She leaned down and reappeared holding 2 cats, one gray and one black. Say hi to Daddy! She kissed both cats on the head. Gorman smirked. How have they been doing? Healthy. They miss you a lot. I miss them too, and you just as much. How are you? Good. I won't get word on that promotion till tomorrow. I certainly hope you get it. No, I know you'll get it. Did you get a new Marine for your unit? Yes, and she is a handful. Quite the handful. Not very disciplined and really loves her pranks. I've been her primary target, unfortunately. No, are you okay? For the most part, yes. I've had my clothes disappear, wind up mice in my drawers, lipstick writing on my mirror, salt in my coffee, and those cushions that make fart sounds on my seat. Is there anything you can do? There's a lot I can do, but you know me. I'm going to give her a second chance. Talk to her about what's going on. Hopefully things will get better. You do have a remarkable ability to connect with people, even though you're a bit shy. I'm a bit shy? Who didn't leave my side when we were invited to the Colonial Marine Corps ball last year? Lydia smiled. Okay, fine. We're both shy. I think what you did last year can be classed as a 4-hour hug, and I really wouldn't mind being hugged for 4 hours again. We'll do that when we see each other next. I promise. I will hold you to that promise. A light and airy feeling encompassed Gorman's chest. I love you so much, darling. I love you too, Scott.